Hello, everyone. My name is Matt, and I'm a senior library assistant with the Kitchener Public Library. Welcome to the first session of our Camping 101 series in collaboration with the Parks Canada Learn to Camp team. Today, we're going to be learning about everything you need to know before you take your first front country camping trip. Before our presenters get started, I want to thank everyone for joining us today. And as we listen, I want to encourage you to think about any questions you might have for our guests. Please submit those questions through the Q&A function in Zoom, and we'll do our best to answer them during a question period at the end of the presentation. This session is going to be recorded and uploaded to the KPL YouTube channel, so if you want to revisit it or share it with friends, it will be available there soon. There's also a handout with a list of great camping-related resources to borrow from the library that we've shared with everyone by email. I'll try and add that handout to the chat here if possible as well. Thanks so much, everyone, for being here. And now I'll pass things over to our friends from Parks Canada.
Thanks so much, Matt. Just to confirm, you can see my screen okay?
Yep, looks good.
Perfect, awesome. Great, well, hello and welcome everyone, bienvenue. My name is Briley and my pronouns are she and her. I work on the Learn to Camp team with Parks Canada, and I work out of the Rouge National Urban Park here in Toronto. I'm here with my coworker, who will also introduce themselves.
Hi everyone, I'm Vanessa. I'm also on the Learn to Camp team with Riley, and today I'll be providing links in the chat and supporting the presentation.
Perfect, thank you, Vanessa. All right, so I'd like to start with a land acknowledgement. So Parks Canada would like to acknowledge that Rouge National Urban Park is built on the ancestral land of many nations, including the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, Huron-Wendat, and Mississaugas of the Credit. At Rouge National Urban Park, we are very proud to be working closely with 10 First Nations through the First Nations Advisory Circle on the establishment, planning, and management of the park. We work closely with our First Nations partners on a number of projects, including archaeological fieldwork, restoration projects, and the development of visitor facilities. So since we're all on a video call and not in the Rouge National Urban Park, we would like to encourage everyone to learn a little bit more about the history of the land in your area by exploring the nativeland.ca website, which Vanessa will provide a link for you in the chat. Furthermore, June is National Indigenous History Month, and this year, National Indigenous History Month is dedicated to the missing children, the families left behind, and the survivors of residential schools. So to learn more about National Indigenous History Month, please visit the project website. So thank you for being here and welcome to Camping 101 presentation. For new campers, today you'll learn everything you need to know to plan and execute your first camping trip and have fun doing it. So quick introduction on Parks Canada's mandate. On behalf of the people of Canada, we protect and present nationally significant examples of Canada's natural, cultural heritage and foster a public understanding and appreciation in ways that ensure the ecological and commemorative integrity of these places for present and future generations. As part of the Learn to Camp team, we teach Canadians about the outdoors, how to camp, how to be safe, and how to keep animals safe. We do so by presenting activities and workshops like this one, and we also organize in-person workshops and events when possible to show people how to camp at our parks with all the equipment that you would need. So to sum it all up, we provide opportunities for Canadians to learn outdoor skills and gain knowledge that will allow them to create memorable experiences. All right, so I'd like to begin by sharing my story of how I fell in love with camping. So my love for camping began from many visits to Algonquin Park. As a child, my family, we would all go together and camp on the lake for about a week's time. I loved to swim, play cards, and eat treats off the fire. For me, camping was always special because I got to do fun activities with the people that I loved the most. So now that I'm older, camping is even more of an adventure because I get to do all the planning. Wow, do I ever realize how good I had it when I was younger, and all I needed to do was pack my swimsuit and I was all set thanks to my parents. I still love to visit Algonquin Park and other parks nearby, such as Jordan Bay Islands National Park and Massasauga Provincial Park. 2 summers ago, I was lucky enough to camp in the only campground in the Greater Toronto Area, the Glen Rouge Campground, which is located in the Rouge National Urban Park. Sadly, it's under renovation for this year and won't open up till next year, but once it does reopen, I encourage you to go check it out. So there I was helping others fall in love with camping by running the Learn to Camp overnight workshops. As you can see, there are so many different ways to enjoy the outdoors, and I really hope our presentation today inspires you to find your reason to get outside. So I'd like to take a moment to ask you all, what brought you here today? What are you most interested in learning about? What are some of your burning questions? So please feel free to write your answers in the comment box or save your questions until the end of the presentation. If we don't cover it today, your comments will help guide us to determine the topics of our future presentations. So some of today's topics that we'll be going over are camping basics, how to plan your trip, what to bring and how to pack, my personal favorite, camp cooking, and finally we'll end off with wildlife safety. Great. So for some of you, camping may be new. So what is camping and why should you try it? Well, camping is an outdoor recreational activity where participants leave their home areas and enjoy nature while spending 1 or several nights outdoors, usually at a campsite. So while at the campsite, most people will sleep in a shelter such as a tent, maybe a cabin, even an RV or motorhome, and you can take part in outdoor activities during the day. So to accomplish this, participants bring along a variety of items from home, which allow them to enjoy their time spent outdoors in relative comfort and safety. So during our presentation today, we will be focusing on a type of camping often referred to as car camping or front country camping. And this is the most popular form of camping in which you reserve a campsite situated within a larger campground. So here's an image of a campground that is found in La Mauricie National Park in Quebec. And within front country campgrounds such as these, your reserved campsite will be one amongst many. So you can see here on the screen, there's a bunch of different numbers and those indicate all the different campsites available in this campground. So on busy summer days, there will be dozens of other groups camping on sites nearby. And your campsite will be situated within a camping loop, such as this one here, with other tents located on neighboring lots within a few meters away. You can think of a campground as a tent village filled with people who love sleeping outdoors and spending time in nature. So on this image as well, you can see that there's a legend down below, and this just indicates all the different facilities that the campground has. So you can see over here we have authentics, which are a cross between a tent and a cabin that some of our campgrounds have. I believe there's also some showers, and it indicates a telephone over here, electrical over here. So when you are looking at a campground, you want to check out the legend to see what other facilities it has as well. Great, so here's a picture of an individual campsite, which will be your home in the heart of nature. So this is your personal space for your duration of your stay at the campground. When you arrive, your campsite will most likely be a bare patch of ground where you'll want to raise your tent, unpack your gear, and make yourself comfortable. So most campsites will have a picnic table and a fire pit already installed, but once you get there, you can customize it to how you like. So during your stay at a campground, what you choose to do and which activities you decide to take part in are totally up to you. And depending on the season, there are so many to choose from. My personal favorites are swimming in the lake or cooking on a campfire. What activities are you most looking forward to? Let us know in the chat. You can see in the pictures here, we have some canoeing, maybe some hiking, and this family down here is also playing games. Perfect. So now it's time to discuss trip planning. Trip planning may be overwhelming, so getting advice from people with experience camping is always helpful. I remember when I went camping for the first time, I talked to so many of my friends, family members, and coworkers to help me plan my trip. I found staff at stores where I bought camping equipment really helpful as well. And building ourselves a network of people who camp can be a great way to share gear and go on trips together. So during the COVID pandemic, we would ask you to please practice safe physical distancing and don't plan any camping trips with friends and family that are outside of your household. So the first thing you should consider are the reasons why you want to go camping in the first place. I've already mentioned a few of my own reasons, but now it's time to consider your own. So everyone, please take a moment and think about it. What draws you in? Do you want to experience maybe beautiful natural landscapes? Are you looking to unplug, relax, or hoping to spend some quality time with your family? Or maybe you're even looking for a new adventure or simply new experiences. If you'd like, you could even grab a scrap piece of paper or a notepad and write some of these reasons down. And if you know already, feel free to please share it in the chat box with us. There's absolutely no right or wrong answer. But these reasons of why you want to go camping will help you guide the rest of your planning process. So a key consideration in planning your trip will be determining what your budget is. So some of the camp costs could include maybe your fuel and transportation, how you'll be getting to the campground and back home. Oftentimes, equipment can be quite pricey. You'll have to figure out what gear and items that you want or need for your trip. We recommend that you always try to find these either used or borrow them from your family. That can definitely help with lowering the cost as well. You should also consider the food and drink that you'll want to carry with you on your trip. You'll have to eat, so you have to budget that into your cost. And finally, the park entry fees and campground fees. So camping reservation fees can vary anywhere from about $20 to $55 per night. And if this is your first trip and you aren't yet convinced if camping is something you are ready to invest in, like I said, we strongly encourage you to borrow or even rent the necessary items. And the more you camp, the more gear you will collect and the cheaper it will become. So next we have, where do you want to go? Canada is a big country, but we don't have to go far to find a great campsite. In fact, for your first experience, we recommend striking close to home, especially if you're bringing kids. That way, if you need to leave for any reason, home isn't too far away. And if you search the web, you're most likely to find many suitable campgrounds within a 2-hour travel distance from where you are. Campgrounds typically fall into 3 categories. There's private commercial campgrounds, provincial campgrounds, and national park campgrounds. So there's many options available, and it can be daunting just trying to decide on where to go. This is where you're getting advice from your family, friends, and or coworkers can become very useful. Nothing beats firsthand experience. So in deciding where you want to go, you can consider how far do you want to travel, what types of activities you want to do. Many campgrounds offer different types of activities, so you can check out what they do offer on their websites. And what type of services do you prefer to have while camping? Maybe you can consider what type of access you have to the campground as well. So Parks Canada currently offers 7 different locations in Ontario where you can go camping, 5 of those being national parks, and 2 of our national historic sites also have some campgrounds. So like I said, we want to consider what services the campground we're choosing provides. So some available services and amenities will vary from campground to campground. At Parks Canada locations, the front country campgrounds all offer washrooms, and some may include showers, kitchen shelters, electrical, maybe drinking water, and some even have Wi-Fi access zones. So campgrounds may be in close proximity to other facilities like outdoor theater, grocery stores, playgrounds, and maybe picnic shelters. So these are all some things that we can consider. So here's an example of the information you can find when reserving a Parks Canada campsite on our reservation system. So some campsites might also take reservations over the phone, but it's best to explore the website of the campground you are interested in visiting to learn more about what's available and how to make a reservation. Parks Canada staff are there to help you and happy to answer your questions through email or by phone. So we can look on the screen here. This particular campsite is unserviced. That means it doesn't have any electrical hookup and it has its own fire pit. You're allowed a maximum party of 6 people. It has 1 picnic table. You're allowed 1 vehicle. We can see the privacy is a little poor. So if that's something that's important to you, maybe this campsite wouldn't be your best option. But there's a close distance to a water tap, which is usually very handy. And there's also a recycling center and kiosk nearby. So just some things to look for. So another important trip planning factor is to decide when do you want to go and for how long. So generally speaking, camping can be done at any time of the year. If you're a new camper, however, we recommend booking your trip during the warm weather months. So June, July, and August are popular times to go. You can book your campsites during the weekdays, weekends, or a combination of both. Long weekends are usually the busiest, and you may have a bit of trouble finding available spaces during these times. But once you have some experience, you might want to try camping during the shoulder season, which is either late spring or early autumn when campgrounds are less busy. Other considerations for timing your trip may include maybe your kid's summer vacation, peak bug season, allergy season, or just simply when you have time available to book off. Some people also plan their trip to coincide with natural spectacles like meteor showers or annual bird migration. There's lots of options of when you want to go. You just have to decide which option is best for you. So next we have who will be coming with you. Unless you're planning a solo trip, you'll want to involve your household in the trip planning process. Make sure to include them in decisions along the way. Find out what their expectations are and what activities they're interested in engaging in during your camping vacation. Kids especially will feel much more excited about camping if they've been included in the planning process. So if you're planning on bringing kids on their first camping trip, we suggest having a little trial run at home if possible. Maybe practice putting up the tent or sleeping outside before the actual trip. This way your kids will know what to expect and you'll uncover any potential obstacles before leaving home. Knowing who is coming with you will also guide you to know what you should pack and bring with you. So what do you need to bring with you? Well, here we have a handy dandy checklist. Vanessa will also put an extensive one in the chat for you. So once you've answered the why, the where, and the when, and the who of your camping trip, it's time to start packing. So remember to consider the answers to the previous questions as they will help guide you of what you need to bring. Everything you'll be bringing with you will fall into one of these categories on the checklist here. So in the comments box, like I said, Vanessa will drop that link for us, and you can have a quick look and maybe personalize your own checklist. So another key feature to consider for the checklist is equipment that will keep you comfortable, dry, and warm. So let's begin with the tent. So tents come in all sorts of colors, shapes, and sizes. And when deciding the size of the tent, we need to think about the number of people, the space you need, and what you want to store in the tent with you. The advertised size of a tent is almost always too small. So aim for 1 2 person size up, maybe 1 or 2 person size up. For example, if the tent is advertising that it fits 4 people, it probably does fit 4 people, but it's probably pretty snug. So if you want a little bit more wiggle room in your tent, we recommend aiming for maybe a 5 or 6 person, even though you're only 4 people. So the first decision you need to make is whether you want to buy a new, used, or if you're going to borrow from a friend or maybe even rent. Tent prices begin around $50 for a cheaper tent. And go up from there. It's a good idea to purchasing before taking a plunge. But the price tag of a tent relates to the quality of the material and how long it will last you. You'll be able to find a tent perfect for your needs at big box stores, specialty outdoor stores, or maybe even secondhand shops and online groups. So here are some standard tent accessories that usually come with the tent. So the tent will always come with its own zippers, poles, pegs, which help secure it into the ground, and the rain fly, which goes over the tent to help protect you from water. Some extras that you might want to consider are a tarp to help keep you dry, a footprint, which is just a customized tarp that goes underneath your tent so that no water could permeate, and maybe you'll need some lights as well, so maybe a lantern. So here are some common tent features to also look for. So some doors, vestibules, easy setup, pockets, and organization. For those of you who don't know what a vestibule is, I like to think of it as the garage of my tent where I can store my equipment. You can see in the image here that vestibules provide extra protection near the door of the tent. That's right here. I'm circling with my mouse. Another feature to look for is if the tent will be easy to set up. So maybe check out, are there many components that have to be put in place or not? And whether it has pockets and other organizational features, this will help you to stay organized throughout your trip. So lastly, we have a few tent tips here for you. So keep in mind that a tent is designed to keep you dry, not warm. It's not a house. So after you arrive at the campsite and are looking for a spot to set up the tent, look for a raised flat spot away from the fire pit and away from any place where water may pool. If possible, we recommend removing any rocks or debris that might make sleeping uncomfortable. And please don't forget to look up. Avoid any spots beneath large branches that may break off during strong winds. And as much as possible, keep zippers closed and bugs out. Establish a rule that everyone removes their shoes before coming into the tent. This will just keep it clean, prevent dirt and pebbles from entering the tent. And it's a good idea to maybe even bring a small portable broom and dustpan, just in case to sweep up any dirt that does get in the tent. And if you decide to put a tarp under your tent, make sure that it is folded so that it doesn't extend beyond the outside edge. If the tarp does extend too far, the morning dew or rainwater may collect and start to pool under your tent, and we don't want that. So make sure you always dry out your tent when you get home. This will really help prevent any mold that could accumulate on your tent. Great, so next we have sleeping bags. So like tents, sleeping bags come in a wide assortment and variety. The most important factor, however, is to look at the temperature rating. So a sleeping bag's temperature rating tells you the lowest temperature that the bag is intended to keep the average person warm. So these ratings assume you're using a sleeping mat for insulation. So underneath your sleeping bag, you'll have a sleeping mat. And they also assume that you're wearing pajamas or a base layer of clothing inside the bag. So it's best to aim for a temperature rating a few degrees lower than the nighttime temperatures you are expecting. If you don't want to spend the money on a warmer sleeping bag, you can also always just bring extra blankets for extra warmth. For front country camping, this is an easy and affordable solution for families especially. For first-time campers, you should consider maybe just buying a synthetic sleeping bag. First of all, they're just much cheaper and can usually do the job. The down-filled ones, so those are the feathered ones, can be lighter and more compact, but they're usually more expensive and you really can't get them wet. Where a synthetic, it's okay if it gets a bit wet. And in terms of price range, the cheaper adult sleeping bags begin around $20 and can go up from there. But some features you want to look for are the quality, durability, the weight, material, and warmth, and that will vary on the budget as well. Great, so like I mentioned, you also will need a sleeping mat. We have provided a little checklist for you here of what you should look for when purchasing a sleeping mat. So these are essential because they really help you keep warm during the night. They help prevent your body from losing heat to the ground, and they add an extra layer of padding and comfort as well. So you can get one type of mat called a foam mat. These are super inexpensive, but they don't compress, and you need to roll them up for storage. But an easy way to store them is just to leave them unrolled under your bed. They're a great idea for beginners who don't want to spend a lot, because they only start around $20. Another option is air mattresses. So these are super common, but they're usually pretty large and heavy. And they also require a separate pump and can often spring a leak after only a couple of uses. So it could also be an option for beginners because they also start around $20, but you really want to consider if you have to carry it at all. Next, we have an inflatable insulated mat. So these are the most expensive but can compact much more than other models. They're not necessary for beginners, but you may want to invest in one later on. So the warmth of the sleeping pad is indicated by its R value, which is just a measure of the material's resistance to heat loss. So basically, the higher the R value, the greater the warmth. So 4 or less is all right for summer, but you'd want to purchase a higher than 4 if you plan on camping in the spring, the fall, or maybe in higher altitudes as well. Great, so now we're on to camping stoves. So unless you plan on eating your food cold, you're going to need a plan on how to cook your meals or even reheat your meals. So camping stoves are a popular option. You can purchase a new or a used one, maybe even rent or borrow from a friend. Camping stoves are easy to use and very familiar since they replicate the experience of cooking in the kitchen, except you're outside. So they are large. They can get large and heavy. So you want to consider that if you have to go far from your car to maybe a picnic table. But you can get a 2-burner stoves. These are probably the best option for most car campers. And they also accommodate standard kitchen pots and are great for making group meals as well. So make sure you buy the right type of fuel for your stove and make sure to always bring extra. You don't want to run out when you're there and have to eat cold food. You also want to maybe consider trying it at home before going camping. Make sure you always do this outside, but it's a good way to make sure that all the components work as well. So one of the best parts about camping is sharing a delicious meal at a campsite. But just like the rest of your trip, it's important to have a plan. So you want to think about how many days you'll be at the campground and who will be there with you. Consider what you'd like to eat for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and include any drinks, snacks, or campfire treats. So camp food doesn't need to be cold and bland. It's possible to make something truly mouth-watering, even at the campsite. And if you do need inspiration, the internet is a great resource for finding recipes and new ideas as well. Like I said, we need to consider what meals we need to plan for. So here's a couple of ideas to get you started. So for breakfast, one of my favorite meals is just to heat up some oatmeal. It's super quick and easy. I love adding a bit of peanut butter to mine as well for a little sweetness. Next for lunch, I find it a great option is just to either make a sandwich or a wrap prepared beforehand. And it's great because you can customize it to the ingredients that you like. For dinner, I love trying out some of the meals that I make at home. So usually I choose a carb like a pasta or a rice, and I bring lots of veggies as well. For dessert, you can never go wrong with s'mores, but if you're feeling a little more adventurous, you could try maybe roasting a banana in aluminum foil over the fire, and then you can add chocolate chips to it afterwards. I like to make these and call them banana boats. They're super delicious. And finally, what snacks are you going to want to eat? Some common ones that I have are either trail mix, fruit, or granola bars. So I'd love to know, does anyone have a favorite camping recipe or something that you'd like to try cooking while you're camping? So to campify it, so please let us know in the chat if you do. So here are just a couple of cooking tips. The first one is to chop or marinate your vegetables at home. This will just help reduce the cooking time at the actual campsite. You could also pre-cook your meat. Bring instant add water dishes such as sidekick pasta dishes, maybe some instant rice. You could also prepare your meals beforehand if you can. So for example, on one of my camping trips, I made a big batch of chili and then I froze it. And then by the time I got to my campground, it was unfrozen and ready to eat. So that was just a super easy way to prepare a meal beforehand. But the more you do in advance, the less you will have to do at your campsite. So doing this extra prep at home in the comfort of your own kitchen will make your trip a little more enjoyable. And don't forget to bring lots of snacks as well. Perfect, so now we're on to campfires. So another option or another great way to cook is over a campfire. A couple notes on cooking over a campfire. You'd want to bring something to grab the pots and pans with. So maybe like an oven mitt or something that you won't burn your hand on. And we recommend that you don't bring your best pots and pans. Maybe if you have one that is a little older, this will help reduce the damage on your pots. You may even want to bring a pot or a roasting pan. You could also just bring some roasting sticks or aluminum foil. These are super quick and easy as well. So this is a little more rustic than using a camp stove, but it's definitely a great option and adds great flavor to your food. So also there are 3 things you must consider before starting a fire. The 3 are listed on the slide here. So is there a fire pit? Is there a fire ban in the area? And do I need to purchase a fire permit? So in most national parks, you must purchase a fire permit, as mentioned earlier, if you'd like to have a fire. The best thing to do is just to inquire about it with the staff when you first arrive. And please, we recommend that you don't bring any outside firewood into a national park. This really helps to avoid introducing invasive species into the park. So if you do need firewood, you can always buy it at the campground. And campfires are an essential camping skill, and with the right tools and a little practice, you can get one going in no time. We'll drop a link in the comments or in the chat for you to see our how-to campfire video that you can watch after the presentation that just goes through the notion of how to build a campfire. Perfect, so now we're going to move on and talk a little bit about wildlife safety. So, does anyone know what a bear campsite means? And no, I don't mean the animal. This bear is spelled a bit differently. So while we're at the campsite, we want to make sure that your area is clean, and we put any wildlife attractants, so anything with a smell like food, maybe your shampoo, your soap, your toothpaste, we want to make sure those are in your car or in a food locker when you're not using them. So this could also include dishes or garbage. We can't keep these on the campsite or in our tents. It's just not a safe place to store food because animals can easily tear through a tent wall to find those delicious treats. So in talking about animals, we're not necessarily talking about the large, dangerous ones like bears or coyotes, but rather like the squirrels and raccoons that are more common in some areas and are used to being fed, unfortunately. So anything with a strong or delicious smelling odor will attract unwanted attention from animals and might lead to a dangerous encounter. Overall, it's just dangerous for the whole campground. So we really want to keep anything that has a scent out of the tent, keep your campsite bare and clean, and this will help reduce animals being attracted to your campsite. So like I said, here's a picture of a food locker. This is a place that some campsites or campgrounds do have, and this is a place where you can keep your food or scented items in at nighttime. But you could also use your car if you have it with you. So it's important to pack everything away and to never leave any food unattended at your campground, at your campsite. Like I said earlier, it's just a very serious issue because it will attract animals and it is dangerous for the whole campground. So moving on to hiking, we recommend that you be alert of your surroundings and you respect others and wildlife on the trail. So whenever you go out into wild areas, try to travel as a group. Naturally, when you're traveling as a group, you're going to be making a bit more noise. But most of the time, or if you want to go hiking solo, that's okay too. We just recommend that maybe if you're going around a corner, just to make a little extra noise, maybe just clapping your hands a little so that you alert any animals in the area of your presence, and that will just help so you don't startle them and they'll hear you, and it'll just avoid unwanted encounters. So we also recommend to keep a good distance from wildlife when on foot. So whenever you do encounter wildlife, you should always try to stay at least 100 meters away. This will help ensure your safety and the animal's safety. You can also look for clues that you're getting too close to the animal, maybe any changes in behavior, like the animal raises their tail. So to help you remember how much distance you need, we came up with the thumb rule. So here's a look at the thumb rule. You can see my lovely thumb in these images here trying to cover the blue jay. So the thumb rule goes as so: if you stick your arm out at an arm's length away and you can't completely cover the animal like I do in this image here, so I can still see the animal behind my thumb, that means I'm too close. I need to back away so that my thumb covers the entire animal like so in the second picture here. That is just a good rule for any animal, no matter the size, and then you'll know you'll be a safe distance away. So if you do spot an animal while you're driving, we really recommend that you remain in your car, especially if you're on the highway. This goes back to the thumb rule. We always want to keep as much space as possible between us and wildlife. And please never stop for bears or other large animals. This can cause traffic accidents, and it just can be dangerous for humans and wildlife. So it's unlawful to feed any wildlife, even this cute little squirrel. This is one of Parks Canada's main objectives. Wildlife that becomes comfortable around humans pose a huge safety threat, both to themselves and to people. We'd like you to remember that it's against the law to feed any wildlife, even if it seems cute and seamless like the squirrel. It's just really, it can really harm the animals and us, so it's best to please never, ever feed wildlife. And if you'd like any more information about any of the topics we've gone over today, please visit our website. You can see here it's parkscanada.gc.ca/rouge. And you could also send us an email. We have a phone line as well. And you can keep up to date by following us on Twitter and Facebook. So that brings us to our question period. I'd like to invite my coworker Vanessa, and we'll try to get through as many questions as we can.
Yeah, so for everyone looking to ask a question, use the Q&A function. You should see that along the bottom bar of Zoom, or you can just type it in the chat. We'll try and monitor both now. I actually have a question or two while people are thinking about stuff. I was curious. So we talked a bit about tents and other equipment that you take camping with you, but what's a lesser known item that you always take camping that's always helpful or useful in some way that people wouldn't expect to come in handy?
Ooh, that's an interesting question. I would have a coworker, and she always brings like a lacrosse ball. She says it's super great if you ever need an extra activity to do, you can play catch with it. But it's also great to massage out any muscles you have that are sore. So it has kind of a multi-purpose. So that's a unknown one that I like to let people know about as well.
For me, I usually like to bring camping chairs because usually, yeah, most campsites will have like a picnic table of some sort, but it's nice to have like a chair of your own or a few chairs so that if you're going with a group, you guys can all sit down at the same time, maybe look around the fire or something.
Great. Those are good answers. My personal favorite is a frisbee, because again, I think like the lacrosse ball, it gives you something to do, but I found frisbees really useful for helping to fan a fire, because they're, instead of just using like all the newspaper you brought with you, that's very flimsy, the frisbee is hard plastic, so it really gets the wind going if you're trying to help like get a fire going. That's my favorite.
Very smart. Yeah, I'll have to write that one down.
I've also seen people bringing very small, like 2 or 3 step ladders with them, and if they have enough space in their car to help with tying knots and things when you have to, so you don't have to carry the picnic table all around the campsite to try and get the ropes high enough.
Yeah, that's a great idea.
Yeah. Both of those are like super great ideas. I haven't really heard of I've heard of like people bringing frisbees, but that would be like super useful.
Yeah, I think me and my partner just had a really hard time starting a fire once, and we were using everything we had available to us, and the frisbee was kind of the best thing we found.
That's usually how the discovery of these items goes.
Well, so if people, I do have another question to ask you too. What's your favorite thing to cook when you go camping?
Nessa, do you want to go first?
Yeah, for sure. So the question was, what's our favorite part of camping?
Or what's your favorite thing to cook?
Oh, okay.
When you're cooking.
Yeah. I personally like roasting potatoes at a campfire. So I usually like wrap potatoes or like roasted vegetables in like aluminum foil, and then I'll leave it in for maybe an hour or like a bit of time so that like it can kind of cook thoroughly. And yeah, it's really nice because you can just kind of leave it and it'll cook on its own. You don't have to like tend to it or anything. And yeah, it turns out pretty well every time.
That sounds good. This is such a hard question because I just love to cook everything over the fire. I find it brings so much good flavor to the food. Last summer, I tended to bring a lot of corn on the cob. I don't know why, I just really enjoyed the charcoal flavor on the corn, and it was just super easy because you can just throw them with the husk on, still on the fire, and it worked out really well. Matt, do you have one?
I didn't have any in mind when I asked the question. You said if you like oatmeal is my go-to breakfast, I think, when I go camping, and sandwiches as well are really easy to do. As far as dinner goes, it's tough because I find a lot of the fire-focused things you end up having to get that started earlier during the day, like around 4 or 4:30. Sometimes if you want to eat at a decent hour. I think still, I don't know. You can't top hot dogs for me. Like hot dogs.
Classic.
So easy. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I probably it's going camping. Like that.
Nice. Yeah, it's fun roasting them on the stick as well. I like using those roasting sticks.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I have one more question for you. If no one else has anything to add. So things have been a bit busier the last couple summers, I think, generally because of COVID. People are looking for other ways to spend their vacation time, and camping is a great way to do that. And I think, I know at Ontario Parks at least, they've seen a huge uptick in the amount of people trying to reserve sites, sometimes up to 40 or 50% more than normal. So do you have any tips for trying to book a site when things can be so busy and it can be really hard to find a place to go and make it work?
Great point. Yeah, unfortunately, I wish we had enough spots for everyone, but they do fill up really fast. I think the biggest tip I can give is just checking the date. So when you know that the reservation is going to open up, try to do it as close to that date as possible. That will give you the best chance to have the most options. But don't feel discouraged if you do see that everything is booked up. A lot of the time there are last minute cancellations. So another thing you can do is just keep checking the website. I know that can be a pain, but that'll also open up opportunities for you to book when something does become available.
That's a great point. Yeah, checking the website is always like a great idea, but also if a certain campground seems to be like particularly like popular, there will usually be like other campgrounds in the area. So like for instance, if you're looking to look at like a national site, there might be another provincial park in the area, or like even like commercial campgrounds and things like that. But yeah, usually there's a few options.
Great. Okay. So it looks like we have a question from Pauline, who asks, are fire pits standard sizes across provincial and national as well as regional parks? If I wanted to buy a grate to put over the fire for cooking, what size should I look for?
Ooh, great question.
I know from experience.
Okay, so
sorry, go for it.
no, you can go ahead. What's your experience?
I was going to say, I know from experience that Ontario and like national parks have similarly sized fire pits, but there can be a bit of variation. I'm not so sure about regional parks or like say local conservation areas.
Yeah, I think I would answer the question the same way. I would say they're similar. I'm not sure. I don't think they would be standard. But sometimes the fire pit will actually have a built-in grate. It really depends on the campsite. A great thing about our national parks reservation system is that you can actually click on the campsite you want to reserve and it'll show you a picture of it. So you can definitely check out those pictures to indicate if the fire pit has the grate already there for you. If you want to purchase one, yeah, it's hard to say what size you would need. I would say maybe go for like, the standard size that the website offers, and worst comes to worst, it'll either be too big and it'll still work, or it'll be too small and you can add extra wood to kind of secure it.
Okay, great. Let's see here. I see another question here. Okay. I do have a question for you. When trying to like practice some good camping skills, things like say knot tying, for example, to help with building ropes and tarps and things like that. Do you have any good ways to practice those skills or resources for folks to check out?
For sure, yeah. So when I was camping a bit more 2 summers ago, I was really working on my knot tying skills. And what I found helped me a lot was to actually just buy the rope that I was going to be using and just cutting a smaller version of it. And when I was doing activities such as watching TV, I could just tie it to something nearby, maybe just any like chair leg that you have. You can practice tying those knots beforehand. I found it was super helpful. So when you get to the campsite, it's just another skill that's a bit easier for you.
Yeah. So your question was about like rope specifically, right?
Sure, but it could be any skill. Campfire building or I don't know, navigation on a hike, things like that.
Yeah, like Riley said, practicing with like a smaller piece of rope is like a great idea. But like for general camping skills, like putting up a tent or like starting a fire, so setting up a tent is something that is a great idea to practice at home before you go if you can. But with regards to like campfires, it's something that you can't really practice unless you have like a designated fire pit. So I would say if you can, maybe familiarize yourself with like the techniques that you'll need to know to set up a campfire if you do end up going to a campground. But yeah, and then just know like what you need to do when you actually do end up setting it up beforehand.
Great. Okay. Well, I think that's it. So I just want to say thank you to everyone for your wonderful questions, and thanks to Parks Canada for joining us today and your fantastic presentation. It was really great to learn about kind of the basics of everything you need to go camping. And I just want to say before everyone goes that I hope you'll all join us on, let me make sure I have the right date here, July 15th at 1:30 for our next session, which is going to be on animal awareness and how to camp with wildlife nearby. To sign up for that, you can go to kpl.org and open our calendar and look for all of our Camping 101 events there. You'll find 3 sessions throughout the summer to explore and check out. And we have even more programming there that hopefully will interest you. That's it, and have a great day, everyone.